Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. It's John Pollock with you, and we are coming off of the UFC Fight Night 45 card from Wednesday night in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and John Ramdeen is going to stop by to discuss the card and some of the strong performances we saw. But first, let's take a look at what exactly went down on Wednesday night. Donald Cerrone won his fourth straight fight on Wednesday and added yet another bonus to his long list after stopping Jim Miller with a right head kick in the second round. Cerrone actually stopped Miller earlier in the round with a kick to the body, which referee Dan Miragliotta thought at first was a groin strike, but then ruled it a clean blow and let the fight resume. Cerrone stated after the fight he will literally fight anyone, including Khabib Nurmagomedov or Nate Diaz, but just wants to fight soon. In another lightweight bout, Edson Barboza earned his 14th professional victory as he stopped Evan Dunham with a grazing kick to the liver that sent Dunham down to the ground, clutching his liver, with Barboza proceeding with more strikes as the stoppage was called. Both men were coming off of losses to Donald Cerrone heading into their bout in Atlantic City. And Fight of the Night honors belong to John Lineker and Alptekin Ozkilic, with Lineker making weight on Tuesday. He followed through with a great performance that saw the two provide plenty of two-way action throughout the first two rounds, with Lineker outpacing Ozkilic in the third with a higher volume and more effective strikes, and led to two left hands connecting in the final seconds of the fight, where Lineker got the stoppage at 4:51 of the third round. And here he is, John Ramdeen, to chat about the UFC Fight Night card, number 45 from Atlantic City, New Jersey. It was a busy night in mixed martial arts. Not only that, Ronda Rousey wins the ESPY Award for Best Female Athlete. So a lot going on in the world of mixed martial arts, but Atlantic City was the scene of the crime. And
boring.
Boy, how did we possibly get through this card? I think, over-delivered from the action that we saw on paper here. You never know how a fight card is going to turn out, but maybe surprisingly, it was not Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller that got Fight of the Night. Instead, that belonged to John Lineker and Alptekin Ozkilic. And that was a question that you brought up when we chatted earlier this week about Chris Carriazzo getting that flyweight title fight. Man, could Lineker have fit in and come back on August 30th? Maybe, maybe not. But I think if you're comparing the two, I think John Lineker, a bit more momentum, and just from a selfish standpoint, I think a more interesting fight than Chris Carriazzo.
Yeah, I have to agree. And you look at the fact that he is entertaining. He continues to improve in all areas of mixed martial arts. We saw stellar takedown defense from him. We've seen that he took the weight cut seriously. And more importantly, he knows how to execute a game plan. And Lineker putting his hands together, landing almost at will. But to Ozkilic looked awesome. Never backed down. And it was only until, the referee had to step in there and stop the fight. He was not giving up. He was there to win this fight. Even when he was hurt, he was moving forward.
Yeah, we saw a lot of late stoppages in the third round. Not late in that the fight went too long, but just typically going that late. 9 seconds to go in the fight for John Lineker. Let's move to the main event. Donald Cerrone, Jim Miller almost could have got two maybe performance of the night bonuses. Stopped Miller apparently, which looked like a clean blow to the body, and then Dan Miragliotta ruling it was not a groin strike. Fight continued, and we got that highlight reel right head kick by Donald Cerrone. He's now won 4 straight. He doesn't care who they put in front of him now. He just wants to fight as soon as possible, whether that be Khabib Nurmagomedov, with, I think, stylistically, that's going to be a very, very tough fight. But Donald Cerrone, are we in that discussion now where this guy could be a title contender for the winner of Pettis and Melendez with one more victory?
I have to believe that Donald Cerrone on Wednesday night with that performance could have won the UFC lightweight title. Wow. He was focused. As my boy Sarge says, he looked mean. He was aggressive. He came forward. And right now in mixed martial arts, there's this mentality of, I'm not giving things up. I'm executing my game plan, and no matter what you try to do, it is no. And we saw that as Jim Miller tried to get this fight down to the ground, and Donald Cerrone just kept saying no. Even when Miller managed to get the fight down to the ground, Cerrone popped back up. He was there to execute his game plan, and he just looked sensational. The striking was good, and maybe the biggest facet of his game was that glaring, blinding tan, and that probably got Jim Miller affected, and he couldn't see the punches coming.
Well, he knew he was going to the boardwalk on the Jersey Shore in the summer. He wanted to look, the orange was just protruding out of his veins. Jim Miller, though, let's not discount him. I thought he won the first round, a very competitive round with him and Cerrone. It really just puts into focus how close that lightweight division is in terms of talent and skill. It's an ultra deep weight class, and Jim Miller is somebody that, even in defeat, he is always somebody that you can put in. He's going to beat most of the guys at lightweight, but there seems to be that boundary that he's certainly you don't see him necessarily surpassing in terms of being one of the elite top lightweights.
One thing about Jim Miller is he's a game day performer. You know, he knows his role in mixed martial arts. And yes, it's going to be disappointing to lose to Donald Cerrone, especially in that fashion, in his own backyard, so to speak. But he's one of these guys that he's mentally strong. So it's, you know what? It's like Manny Pacquiao says, you win some, you lose some. It's a part of fighting. And I think Jim Miller has that mentality. You lose, but you dust yourself off and you get back up. And your next opponent, you try to make a statement with them. And I know that Jim Miller is one of these guys.
I know that you were very much circling your calendar for this particular card with Leonardo Mafra in action, taking on Rick Story. Mafra, of course, weighed in at 165.5 pounds. He apparently had some stomach illness as well that prevented him from even making the 170 mark. You knew size would be a factor in this fight, and it really was for Rick Story, who just had the takedown whenever he wanted it, overpowering him, and then getting that very impressive head and arm choke at the end from a very awkward angle that you don't typically see that submission applied from.
Yeah, Rick Story, though, he's a big, strong guy. He gets that position. He was trying to wear out Mafra.
That was all strength.
Yeah, it was all strength. But you look at Mafra, and what's disappointing about that was his second fight in the UFC. His first fight, he lost by TKO. The second fight, losing by submission, but it's against Rick Story. And we saw how aggressive he was. I think stylistically, you give him a good matchup, not Ricky Story, because as soon as Story felt his punching power, it's like, okay, I want no part of this. Let's get this fight down to the ground. I think Mafra could be a good asset for the UFC's 170-pound, or depending if he decides to, if he can make 155 pounds. But it was very bizarre, this matchup, considering the fact that Rick Story has a win over Johnny Hendricks, and Mafra only lost in his only UFC performance.
I did want to talk about Pat Healy because he's in this interesting spot right now. Him and Gleison Tibau, last night, they now combined 99 professional fights. It's unreal for these two at this point in time. You really saw in that first round, it just seemed like Pat Healy was a step slower, but really did pick up that pace in the latter half of the second round and the third. I thought very close rounds in 2 and 3, but Gleison Tibau gets the win. That's now 4 consecutive losses for Pat Healy, even in this environment where they're running so many cards. And I think guys have a bit of a longer life in the UFC. Where will Pat Healy be next? Will it be in the UFC?
Oh, you hope so, because Pat Healy is one of these guys that, you know, performs. He gets in there no matter who his opponent is, and he brings it to them. Whether he gets beaten up, whether he loses or not, that Pat Healy always comes in shape, and he always comes to try to win fights. And I think when you have a fighter like that on your roster, you got to keep him. Like when he loses fights, he's not getting blasted out of the water. So I think you can use Pat Healy, and the guy's been around for a long time. You got to kind of throw him a bone.
So Lineker and Oskilic get fight of the night. Cerrone and Lucas Martins, who looked very impressive,
too,
stopping Alex White. Very, very solid card from top to bottom from Atlantic City. For John Ramdeen, I'm John Pollock, and stay tuned for Fight News Now Extra.